And we're live. We're live. Fashionably late. But you know what, man? Because we're late, it obviously means we got the ball rolling backstage. We're already in talking mood, which is good, which means this live is going to be absolutely lit. Do you need to introduce yourself? But I'm going to let you anyway, because we all know who you are. But for people who don't, Del, it's on to you.
Yes, Blue Collar Sports TV is where you can find me. We talk about boxing across all levels. Sometimes we like a little rant. Sometimes we do fight predictions, post-fight reviews, all that good stuff. Pretty much the ordinary for when it comes to a boxing channel. And yeah, I guess that's what I'm most well known for.
Most well known for. Most well known for. Welcome back to Disturbed Reality.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The man. You pretty much are one of the few. You're one of the few guys who started out in boxing, are still doing well on your channel, and then did another genre and it just took off. I don't think anyone's ever started in boxing, made a channel, and it's just blown up in another genre out of nowhere.
Yeah, I just got lucky, man. It's just the algorithm, I think, just pure luck when it comes to YouTube. That's what a lot of it is.
And YouTube hates you ever since.
Yeah, man. I wish.
But boxing is one thing we can still talk about, where we still have a little bit of freedom we can talk about. And listen, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, in boxing, it just seems like it's weird, right? Since the Saudis got involved, because I was kind of thinking going into this year that, like, apart from the big fights, there's going to be kind of not really much happening, and it's going to be just a couple of dates in Saudi and maybe a few big shows now and again. But it's like news every other day, and it's this, it's that, it's absolutely insane what's going on. But we got to look at what's happening in the UK. And last weekend, we obviously had the DAZN show. Now, Dalton Smith against Jose Zepeda. Thought Dalton Smith looked good. It was a really good show. On there, we had Campbell Hatton. And yeah, he took the first loss of his career in a good fight. It's the first time we've seen him in a good fight. A lot of people are coming out and they're saying, leave him be, it was a good performance, etc. But we do have to look and say there is a bit of critique there. And when you said in your vid that Tony Bellew wasn't even trying to, defend this, that kind of sums up what we have there, doesn't it?
Totally agree. When Tony Bellew can't conduct damage control and PR on a project, it's deemed for failure, right? Listen, Campbell Hatton, I'm sure he works hard, but ultimately, there's nothing there with Campbell. One thing about the sons of famous fighters, when they turn pro, they're always critiqued with the old nepotism claim, and that is true. But at least with the likes of Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn, there was something there when they turned pro. As raw as they were, there was a bit of athleticism, there was a bit of speed, a bit of power. Campbell Hatton doesn't even have that to make up for his technical deficiencies. I think he looks weak in the ring. He was getting pushed around by James Flint. He can't punch. He can't defend himself. He's slow. He has zero reactions, poor stamina. He's just, sometimes genetics matter, and obviously he never picked that up from his dad. And in the post-fight interview, I think he kind of summarized himself pretty well when he said, I was controlling the early rounds. I felt I did enough. I think that's just entitlement and a silver-spooned attitude coming through. He clearly lost that fight, 8 rounds to 2, 7 rounds to 3 at best. I mean, it's all well and good saying he can come again. He's young, but I just don't think there's anything there. If he was serious about boxing and wanting to get better, he should step away for a couple of years, get a strength and conditioner, go on the small hall circuit, rack up several fights, and then maybe in 2 years we can have a look again. But I think I'd stick a fork in him now, quite frankly.
I was saying that like a couple of years ago, that he needed to not even just go down the card, just literally go and do small hall away from the cameras, no pressure. It obviously seems that like his team, Campbell himself, Ricky, they like the idea of him being on these shows. They like the money that obviously he's generating, because he is generating a little bit of money. Yeah. But when you look and think he's made his pro debut 3 years ago and there's no improvement since then, my question is, right, one, yeah, he obviously doesn't have the talent there. But what's happening in the gym? Like, surely if you take up something and you stick at it for 3 years, you're going to be, look, you're never going to probably be a world beater, but you're going to be better than you were 3 years ago. I don't see anything with that. Do you think it's just that the team just know he's so limited. We can't even bring him sparring. There's a chance he's going to get the crap beat out of him a couple of times.
Yeah, I think it's that. I just think it's a lack of talent, but also, he's always around his family, his dad, his uncle in Matthew Hatton. Maybe it's all too comfortable in that scenario. Maybe he needs to go elsewhere, but I don't think it really matters, man. I really don't with Campbell. I don't think it matters.
How do you see this story ending for him? Because Eddie Hearn, I'd say, will put him on another show.
If he continues fighting, eventually he's going to end up on his back, knocked out, spark out, unconscious. Because like we were saying backstage, man, there's journeymen who can crack, who are going to take that guy out. Like gatekeepers at British level, like before British level, who will take that guy out clean, based on what we're seeing right now. Because he was getting buzzed, by the way. He was getting buzzed by James Flint, and he can't punch.
2 knockouts, I think, in his whole career.
Yeah.
Crazy. And we were talking backstage as well about Jake Paul. That, Jake Paul is an influencer. Yeah, Jake Paul is fighting a nearly 60-year-old Mike Tyson. But at least when you look up Jake Paul, you're like, all right, there is something there.
Yeah, he's got a bit of explosiveness about him. He can punch a little bit. Campbell has nothing. I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm sure he works hard, but he doesn't have anything there.
I likened it to this, and I know it's going to sound harsh, but if you take a boxing game like Fight Night Champions, and we all do it, we all create our own character, we name them after ourselves, they will start you out at the lowest available rank on the default. They'll give you like overall of like 20. And you obviously play the game, you progress, and you unlock, more of an overall. So you get to overall 80, 90 by the end. It's like Campbell Hatton is that default character, but he's locked at like 20, overall 20, and he cannot move up.
I agree, bro. I think it's going to take a miraculous use of modern science to get Campbell Hatton above where he is now. He's going to have more than just eggs and a bit of
I was going to say, does he need a few omelets?
I think those omelets need to be infused with some kind of drug that we don't even know exists right now.
He needs to look at Jarrell Miller's diet.
Possibly.
That's the only thing that can save it, isn't it? Jarrell Big Farmer Miller.
He needs, possibly. I think Big Pharma may be his only option at this point in time. I'll be real.
The card, though, on the weekend, to be fair, it was pretty good. I did enjoy it. We're hoping to get some domestic dust up now. Adam Azim, Dalton Smith, do you actually... I don't think it will. And I'm pointing the finger at one guy, and it's not Adam Azim, but it is a member of Adam Azim's team. We all know who we're referring to. But do you think it's going to happen? And if it doesn't, you pointing the finger at the same guy?
I mean, it's track record, right? He's pulled guys out of purse bids before. And this, it looks like this may be another one of those occasions. It's a shame because that fight's now starting to develop momentum. And I believe the best course of action is always to strike when the iron is hot. Especially with a fight like this. Both guys are still on the come up. I know Dalton's a bit older. But it's one of those fights to where one guy could lose. But if he's good enough, he can come back. Like Groves versus DeGale. Both guys had good careers. I don't see the problem with putting these types of guys together. One guy's going to come up short, but if he's any good, he will recover. And it'll be a great fight, man. Stylistically, it's a great fight. Azim is more athletic, quicker. Dalton has he has better fundamentals. It's a good clash of styles. It'll be a good build-up and a good European title fight. And people are saying Adam Azim's too young at 21. Well, if you're using that as an excuse, don't fight for a European title. Exactly. If you fight for a European, you have to be willing to fight a certain level of competition. So that can't be used as an excuse. No,
and it's not like it's a WBO. It's the full that gets you a world ranking.
Yeah, so exactly.
You're in the top 15 of the world. You can fight Callum or Dalton Smith. No, as far as I'm concerned, no excuse. Eddie Hearn must love the fact that Ben Shalom has track history with this because Eddie Hearn is just golden any chance he gets at Shalom. But I think that genuinely Eddie Hearn would do that fight. And he just knows that I can go with him all I want because eventually Ben Shalom will do what he did on previous occasions and just pull the fighter. And it will make the fighter look bad on top of everything else.
Yeah, it's an easy PR campaign for Eddie Hearn. Why wouldn't you use it if you was him? Do you know what I mean? Why wouldn't you? But it's a shame, man, that these sort of issues are still plaguing boxing. It's a shame because it's a great fight. It's a really interesting fight.
If you're Ben Shalom, though, he's been kind of left out in the dark from the Saudis. The show this weekend, I think, is pretty good, but a lot of the shows have been bad. and then you're trying to lure fighters in, and you get all this negative PR about pulling fighters from first bit, and it's likely that Adam Azim's going to vacate that title. If you're trying to endear fighters over to you, I don't think you're really doing it the right way.
No, I don't either. Because we've seen how it's also, I'm sure fighters are looking at guys like Buatsi and Lawrence Okole. We see how those situations have played out. It seems like he's isolating himself right now, Ben Shalom. It seems like he's isolating himself. And maybe, listen, if you do that, you're going to get the reputation of being hard to work with, which is going to put guys like the Saudis off. Why would they want to work with a guy like that? He's unwilling to compromise. Exactly.
If Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren are willing to work together and do this with the Saudis would look at Ben Shalom from the outside and be like, he's not willing to work with anybody. So how is he going to even try and work with us?
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, in terms of, if you mentioned Buatsi and Lawrence Okole especially, I mean, Lawrence Okole is now going to be fighting in Poland for a Bridgerweight title. We heard last week that Yard Buatsi was pretty much a done deal. And now we're hearing rumours that it's going to be actually Callum Smith, Anthony Yard at the Matchroom vs Queensbury show, which we'll touch on now in a bit. But it's a real case of, like, you know, any kind of hope he has with those guys, it's seemingly gone, because Buatsi against Dan Aziz was a good fight, but now it's like, well, what does he do? If Yard is going to go to Saudi, who is he going to rematch Dan Aziz? And Lawrence Okole isn't even fighting in his own country now.
Well, exactly. Lawrence Okole, they marketed him as the face of Sky Sports when he signed with Shalom. That obviously hasn't worked out. Joshua Buatsi, if he doesn't get the Yard fight, who can he fight? Obviously, Bivol and Beterbiev are marked up. Maybe Yard's going to fight Callum Smith. I can't really think of many guys for him to fight. Usyk is fighting Benavidez.
He is.
You'd be looking at a mid-ranked, lesser-known light heavyweight, like maybe on the European scene, or maybe they'll dig up Jean Pascal's corpse. I don't know.
Honestly, like it for me, it's just baffling. You know, you Buatsi and you had Lawrence Okole. One of them wasn't happy with taking a pay cut, and fast forward nearly 2 years later, Eddie Hearn is working with the Saudis along with Frank Warren, and the fighters on those shows are getting mega money. The other guy didn't want to be on an app that he thought not enough people would see him with and get him enough exposure. And now the Zone TNT are doing pay-per-views together where you can get it on either one. And he's stuck on Sky Sports fighting again, looking for, well, literally, you fought Dan Aziz, right? That was kind of all we had to offer. We don't really know what else to offer you now because we don't have anything else.
Yeah, it seemed very short-sighted, him going to Boxer. It seemed short-sighted, to be honest with you. I don't know where he goes from here. And quite frankly, I liked Buatsi when he turned pro, liked his style. But I'm really quickly losing patience with Buatsi.
Do you think it was the fact that when Eddie Hearn and Sky were working together, you had Eddie Hearn doing the promotion, but in a way, Sky did the marketing? Like, I mean, the team marketed them. They had, Soccer AM could do stuff and stuff like that. And they obviously remembered all that. They thought, okay, look at the reach Sky had. And they obviously assumed it was going to stay that way. But obviously, Eddie Hearn plays a big factor. Matchroom have a massive PR brigade as well, and they've got a good reach as well. And when they went back to Sky, it was like, oh, we only have kind of half of what we had to work with when we were there with Eddie. Now we don't have Eddie, and you have Ben, and it's like, you were there, now you're there.
I think so, bro. I think it's exactly that. The landscape's changed, and Buatsi wasn't aware of it. He wasn't paying attention, and here we are. Listen, there's a reason. We're boxing fans here. You look at the reaction to boxer shows on social media. Usually it doesn't go down well. Usually the cards are bleak, boring, dull, uninspired. There's very few good boxer cards. Since they've been on Sky, I can count on one hand and I'd struggle. The amount of good boxer cards.
Do you know the worst part is that you remember when MTK were a thing and they were doing those shows on IFL? A lot of those shows, they were free. A lot of those shows are better than boxer cards that we have now.
Yeah, because they had very good, evenly matched domestic fights. You had fights like John O'Carroll versus Maxie Hughes, for example. A good domestic fight.
Do you remember Paddy Barnes, Jay Hughes? Or Jay Harris? That was a brilliant fight.
Yeah, exactly. You had fights like that, really good British level, domestic level fights. and sometimes more than one-on-one card.
With Ben Shalom, it's like you have prospect against, and it's not even the fact they're fighting journeymen. He's plugging these. Me and you are both boxers. We know somebody's journeyman. You're looking at somebody, you're like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah,
and they fold over after 2 shots.
Some of the matchmaking's been abysmal. Like I look at Fraser Clarke's matchmaking, for example. Guys like Ben Whittaker, his matchmaking's been terrible.
Yeah, it's been awful.
Just dull and it's just boring, man.
We have to agree to disagree on Ben Whittaker because I don't mind the showboating, but I do think it goes a little bit overboard. But I don't mind it, but you definitely don't like it when it's against those journeymen.
Yeah, so when it comes to the showboating, I get why he's doing it, and it's worked to a certain degree. We're talking about it. But I think the showboating thing is kind of cringe when you're like a silver medalist Olympian. Your opponent is like a 100-1 underdog. It's a little bit cringe when you're doing it against a guy half your size who is like 35 with 20 losses. If you're doing that in a fight of consequence, fair enough, I'm all for it. But when you're doing it against cab drivers and whatnot, I just find it a little cringe, to be honest. But maybe I'm just a fucking miserable bastard. I don't know.
But the fact is, it's getting his name out there. Like one of the videos of him doing that, I think had millions of views. Do you remember when Josh Kelly came around first? And he was doing all that, hands down, moving the head. It was a Boxing Legends TV. One of their highest viewing videos was Josh Kelly doing that. And bear in mind, Josh Kelly, we know, British level, European level, fair to say. He was never going to be, a world beater. But just doing all that showboating instantly attracted views. And their stock rose just off that. And I think Ben Whittaker is even getting even more exposure. So, Can you see why? And bear in mind, if you're doing that and you're getting exposure, and millions of people are viewing it, you're going to turn around and be like, well, I'm going to keep doing that because millions more are going to watch it.
It's exposure, but like at the same time, as we saw with Josh Kelly, they're only going to stick around if you can fight at a certain level. If you can't, they will go quickly.
I think Ben Whittaker has definitely a higher ceiling than Kelly. Just from what I've seen.
I think so.
In terms of this boxer card the weekend, because we will get to Tyson Fury and stuff now in a sec, but there's so much to talk about and dissect. It's on a Sunday, which I like boxing on a Sunday. It's bank holiday Monday. In terms of their cards, I like it. It's a good card on paper. What are your thoughts? Is there anything that you're looking at and thinking, it's good, but no? Or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for a boxer card, I've been slagging them off all show, but it is good for a boxer card. Main event is obviously interesting. Fabio versus Fraser. I got Fabio winning late, but I think Fraser may give him some trouble. Aside from that, I like the Florian Marku Chris Congo fight. I think that's a good step up for Florian.
And Babbage Steve Robinson.
Babbage versus Steve Robinson. For what it is, Car Crash TV, it will be fun.
I love Car Crash TV. We both do.
I'll give it a watch. But yeah, it's a decent little card. There's some fun fights. But I think Congo versus Marku's the pick of the undercard, in my opinion.
I like that fight as well. Just read this super chat out. Thank you, Adam, for the 35 quid real quick. How's it going, G? Any plans for a preview this weekend? How quickly does Fabio do it in your mind? Do you think he puts on a clinic? There's a part of me, right, that thinks that Fabio Wardley... Well, I think Fabio Wardley's going to win. But I actually genuinely think he might actually have a harder time winning this fight than he did the Adelaide fight.
Yeah, I've got a similar feeling. I think with Fraser, I think his best bet is to try to make his physicality matter, like try and lean and crowd Fabio, try and really make it messy and ugly and get up close, try and work the body, because he can work the body for a heavyweight, Fraser Clarke. He can go to the body. I would try to smother Fabio, try to slow those feet down, try to take the distance away, try to take the distance away from that right hand and crowd him and smother him, make it ugly, make it rough, because Fraser's gonna be the A side. I know they're saying Fabio is, but Fraser's the home fighter. Yeah. And he could maybe get away with some more roughhouse tactics than he should because he's the home fighter. So that's what I would do if I was Fraser. I'd try to get really, really tight, really, really close to Fabio and make it ugly.
You think he's going to try and fight the fight David Adelaide should have fought? Because we all thought Adelaide was going to come out swinging. And I think he did in one round. It might have been the second. It's the only round you could give him an argument that he actually maybe nicked. The rest of the time, he was terrified.
Yeah, he was too standoffish. I don't think Fraser is going to do that just because of experience. He's fought big punchers like Jalalov in the amateurs. He's fought guys who can crack. I think he's seen guys like Fabio Wardley. So I think he'd have an understanding of what to do to try and give him trouble. I just don't think he's got enough to win the fight, personally.
Neither do I. And you know what's weird, right? Fraser Clarke, I don't want to sound bad on the guy, but even when you hear him talk about himself and his career, he doesn't talk like himself like he expects to do great things. It's kind of like this is his world title fight almost.
Yeah, he seems very aware of his level. Whereas some fighters may be at his level, but they're delusional with it, and it gives them the extra confidence to maybe get an upset here and there. Fraser doesn't seem to have that inner belief. I could be wrong, could be totally wrong, but maybe he's just grounded. But I do think he'll give Fabio a good fight. I think it'll be a better fight than people think.
So do I actually do. I think in terms of boxer shows, this one looks really good. We were talking at the start of this video about Campbell Hatton and about how when you look at most sons of famous fighters, they don't tend to really live up to it. Tszyu is fighting this weekend, and he has definitely lived up to it. And then some. I was dreading the Thurman fight. I was dreading it. We're not getting it, and we're getting Fundora. Now, as you know, I've never really rated Fundora, but I'm definitely more excited about this than I was about Thurman.
So am I. I saw some people on Twitter say, "Oh, how can you say Fundora's a better fight than Thurman?" If Keith Thurman fought Sebastian Fundora right now at 154, I think everybody would pick Fundora. He's way too big.
100%.
He's way too strong. He would walk through Keith Thurman, in my opinion. I think it's a banana skin fight for Tszyu, because I know he got knocked out by Brian Mendoza, but if you watch that fight back, he was winning. He got caught, he got sloppy, and he was getting tired. But he was winning the fight. He was piecing up Mendoza, but he couldn't maintain it. He's a freak at 154. He's 6'6". Somehow he can fight on the inside. He's got good punch output, good decent power. If Tszyu can't hurt, Fundora could be a hard fight. I'm picking Tszyu, obviously, but I don't think it's going to be an easy fight, and I think it's going to be fun to watch as well. It's going to be a good fight.
You're Tszyu, right? And you're preparing for a 5'7" Keith Thurman. Now you're fighting a 6'6" Fundora. That's a big change. It's not like a couple of inches. It's nearly a foot.
Yeah, and I do rate Tszyu for taking that fight.
Hell yeah.
Because it's a dangerous replacement. That's not one of those. Most replacements we get are substandard. It's very rare we get a replacement that's better than the actual fight. I'm looking forward to it.
Like this is like a Miller Ruiz type of switch, where some people, and obviously they were kind of proven right, where they were like, actually Ruiz is a harder fight.
Yeah.
And
I think it could be a very similar situation. I'm picking Tim to win. He is a better boxer. He does have better fundamentals. But you just can't overlook that type of size and output. That does matter to a certain degree.
And also on the sorry.
No, carry on, bro.
I was going to say on the undercard we have a complete. You were talking about, I think in your stream last night, about world title fights where the challenger has been, a complete mismatch. It's been just complete one-sided world title challenge. We're going to have a completely one-sided world title fight where the champion is the complete mismatch. In Rolly Romero.
Oh yeah, on the undercard. See, I'm so disillusioned with Rolly Romero. I forgot he was fighting. Yeah. He's fighting Isaac Cruz. I think Cruz.
I was like, every
Bro.
chance to Rolly. Any time Rolly is in there with someone with a pulse, it's like he's gonna lose.
I mean, he lost to he should have lost to Ishmael Barroso, but he got that bogus stoppage. Obviously, got knocked out by Tank. Bro, he is a very substandard fighter. He lost to the other guy as well. There's another guy he lost to and got a gift decision. I think Cruz is going to beat him quite decisively, more than likely mid-round stoppage.
Oh yeah.
I just on the inside, I think he'll get decimated. His foot positioning is horrible. His body positioning is horrible. Head positioning is horrible. Can't defend himself up close. I just think he'll get run over by Pitbull.
He was down by Barroso as well, wasn't he? He was down early in that fight, yeah.
Yeah, I think he was.
And Ishmael, to be fair, right, man, I will say, right, Ishmael Barroso, that, I know it was a BS stoppage. Ishmael Barroso comes back next fight, knocks out O'Hara Davis in a round. It kind of does age the win a bit better for Rolly in some ways when you think about it. You contrast his performance to O'Hara Davis, you're like, fair enough. At least you were able to survive past the first round.
Yeah. Listen, Barroso's got the experience. He's decent at a certain level, but any respectable world champion's going to beat Barroso decisively. You would say.
Give you an example, Dalton Smith.
Yeah,
He beat Barroso pretty easy.
I think he would as well. I think he would.
That's the weekend fights done. Now we obviously gotta talk about the announcement that the Matchroom vs Queensbury 5v5 show is gonna be on the undercard of Beterbiev versus Bivol, which we were talking about that backstage. Day of Reckoning was a good card and it had great fights, but Day of Reckoning doesn't even pales into insignificance compared to what we're hearing about this card.
Man, if a couple of those fights that what we're hearing actually come true, this card is going to be insane. First and foremost, the main event speaks for itself.
Oh, yeah.
Like that sells it in and of itself.
Yeah.
But a couple of fights that I really like the look of: Amo Williams versus Hamza Shiraz.
Brilliant.
I think that's a tremendous fight. Two talented guys. Daniel Dubois versus Filip Hrgovic. I think that's a 50-50, to be honest.
So
Excellent fight. And there's a couple more that's been talked about. Nick Ball versus Raymond Ford. It's a good fight. There's some really good fights to be made there.
Now, here's the issue. Raymond Ford has come out and kind of basically shut down that he'll even be on that card. I even heard rumours that he signed with Top Rank. That to me is a big head scratcher. It's like, well, wait, what? You could be on a big Saudi card and you're not going to take it? That's strange, but that's what I'm hearing. If it's not Ray Ford, Lee Wood, surely if you were Lee Wood, I know he's saying he can't make the weight, but surely you could take that extra 4 pounds off to fight in Saudi. Could you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if that bag's big enough, I don't see why not. It'd be a great fight, wouldn't it?
It would be a great fight. Could you imagine Lee Wood against, and I think Lee Wood, if you fought a Nicky Ball, that'd be a real interesting fight. Because I think Nicky Ball would be probably hit hard enough to keep Nicky Ball on him off him.
It's interesting because, like, you can see Nick Ball getting knocked out as he comes in because he just really bull rushes people and tries to quickly close that distance, and he takes a lot of risks doing so. You could see him walking onto a right hand or an uppercut by Lee Wood and getting knocked out. But if he gets on Lee Wood's chest, he'll give Lee Wood a real tough time.
100%.
Lee Wood up close that's where he struggles. He's not a great inside fighter. He needs a bit of distance. He needs a bit of he needs to be able to get purchase on those punches. And primarily he generates power with that straight right or crooked arm punches like hooks and uppercuts. Where it's really uptight and close, he's not as effective. So it's a good stylistic match.
I love it. I hope they do it. Josh Warrington as well, because apparently Ray Ford, it won't be him. So you're kind of like, it's a bit like light heavyweight, where you're kind of thinking it's not going to be a small, insignificant fight. It's going to be a big fight. But like, if you don't have Ray Ford, the obvious answer is for Warren, Nicky Ball, and Eddie Hearn. I know likes Nicky Ball too. Who else is there if it's not Ray Ford? It's got to be one of those two guys, surely. Lara, possibly. Mauricio Lara.
Maybe Lara, but I'm sure Lara went up to 130.
Yeah, he missed weight. I think more than once at Federer. So you're kind of looking at that like, now who else? It really couldn't be anyone else other than Ray Ford. But again, apparently, if it's not him, you're kind of like, oh crap, back to the drawing board.
Maybe they'll change division. Who knows?
Possibly, because I wouldn't imagine that the Saudis just kind of said it random, like name out of a hat. It's going to be these weights. I'm sure they kind of said these are the ideas we want, but it is kind of still up to you. But they would have done it to make sure that the divisions had it's like an obvious two, like. Light heavyweight, you would look at and say Callum Smith, Yard, because they're the obvious two. You're not going to do, you would imagine, Willie Hutchinson versus, Craig Richards or something like that. So I'd imagine that's the way the Saudis have done it. And they're probably looking at this thinking, crap, if it's not going to be these two, well, who is it going to be?
Yeah. Yeah, the light heavyweight one, funnily enough, was the fight. That was the one where I felt the fight may be lesser quality.
Yeah.
But now we're hearing that Yard Boatsi's not happening or may not happen. They can actually, like you said, make that Callum Smith Yard fight, which is another amazing fight.
It's a brilliant fight. That fight right there, again, that is a main. You could probably, I wouldn't say it'd be right to do it, but you could probably do that pay-per-view in the UK, maybe, and
There's been
possibly
worse.
get away with it.
There's been worse. Yeah, there's been worse, bro.
That won't even be. I wouldn't even imagine that's going to be before Dubois or Wilder. It's going to be probably 4th or 5th on the card, and that is a former world title challenger and a former world champion, still in good shape in their careers, and that wouldn't even make the co-main. That's insane.
That is mad, bro. And yeah, they're talking about Wilder and Zhilei Zhang as well.
The rumor mill is, and these are only rumors I'm hearing, right, that Wilder is about to sign a 3-fight deal with Matchroom. The PBC fans, I would honestly, that's going to be a hard day for them if that does happen. Could you imagine?
Yeah, that'd be insane. That'd be insane.
That would be, oh man, the pain would be just, that'd be it. That'd be it for a lot of them. But I would look at that and think, beat Zhilei Zhang, 2-fight deal with or 2 fights against Anthony Joshua. There you go.
That could work. That could work, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, because I guarantee you, Eddie Hearn, Turkey, Al Sheikh, they are obviously going to know Fury Usyk, regardless who wins, unless it's completely one-sided, they'll do a rematch. 100% they'll do a rematch. And I'm sure they're probably thinking there's no real way around it. So as much as we might want Fury Joshua, if there's a rematch, there's no way around it. Like, even if Usyk, say, wins but doesn't get the decision, Usyk is proud. He'll be like, give me that rematch. They're probably like, there's no way around it. Why don't we do Wilder versus Joshua?
Yeah, and especially if Wilder were to beat a guy like Zhilei Zhang, then
he's right back.
Yeah, then it's got legs. That's why I like that Zhilei Zhang fight, because whoever loses that fight is done.
Finished.
It's a loser leaves town fight. It's a proper high consequence fight. So that's the fight I want to see as well. Wilder versus Zhang.
Someone in the chat is kind of alluding to what I was saying. You would worry about that fight. On paper, it sounds great. Best right hand versus best left hand in the heavyweight division, right? But their last 2 performances, albeit against Joseph Parker, were not, they didn't set the world alight. Yeah, Zhilei Zhang had moments in that fight where it was fun, but it was really, you had your few moments of fun and then it was like, right, something please happen. Whereas Wilder Parker, nothing happened. And I'm thinking both guys are going to be petrified of each other's lead hand. Both guys are not going to want to take any chances. Do you remember when O'Hara Davis fought Jack Catterall and both guys were petrified of the other guy's power, the other guy's lead hand? They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to know. And we had 12 rounds of just that. Like, their feet coming together was more entertaining than the fight.
I agree.
I'm worried something like that's going to happen.
I think it will happen until somebody gets knocked out. Someone's
just going to get a set of balls and say, go, just do it.
I think it's going to be boring until somebody gets knocked out. They're going to be standoffish. They're going to be fencing. Not much is going to be thrown until somebody does throw. Honestly, that fight could be down to, like you say, who pulls the trigger first. But the issue is, can these guys pull the trigger anymore? If they can't, then it could be a 12-round ball fest. If they can't.
Zhilei Zhang can pull that trigger, because he did it against Parker. And even the shots he dropped Parker with weren't as... He could throw harder. We all know that. Problem is, he's going to be so worried about Wilder's right hand, and he's going to be so worried about that gas tank.
Yeah.
Because he may have the worst stamina in the heavyweight division.
Bro, I think he may do. And that's the thing. Like, so both low output guys, it's going to be dull until it's not, basically. It's going to be a tense fight, but not much is going to be happening. It's going to be one of those bouts. But I'm all for it. I'd like to see it. I do think somebody gets knocked out.
110%. And I would, if I was a betting man, which I'm not really, and I should, because I think I would have won some good money last weekend if I had put some bets down. If I was, I'd be going with Zhang.
I would favour Zhang as well.
Yeah. And I think do you know what it is? It's not even the fact that Wilder has had those 2 beatings. It's Wilder is so poor technically. You give him a southpaw stance, he might not even know what to do.
No, I agree.
Because he struggled before with southpaws.
I agree. And also when Wilder does try to get a break, one thing about Zhang, he can actually punch in the clinch with his right hand. He can generate a little power up close and manhandle somebody. So that maybe Wilder would. Well, we know Wilder doesn't like that.
No.
I'd favour Zhang, yeah.
And you bear in mind, Zhilei Zhang was able to push Joe Joyce back, and the weight difference was only, what, about 7-8 pounds? The weight difference between those two, of Zhang's in the 290s, it could be as much as 70-80 pounds.
I know, bro. It's significant.
It's going to be serious. And I've seen Zhang. He is, in person, he is massive. You know when someone, like, you look at their head and you're like, you've got to have a good chin. Because, like, the bones, even his head, look big. And it's like, imagine someone hitting that. You'd hurt your hand more so than you'd hurt the opponent.
Yeah, he's got that weird skull. He's got that, yeah. It looks like his skull's thicker than the average person.
100%. But he has been down, and Wilder, whatever he has left, he still has that right hand.
Yeah, he definitely does, yeah. And it's sneaky as well. That's the thing with Zhilei Zhang. Like, he does nothing, and then all of a sudden he'll drop you, like he did against Parker.
I think with Parker, it was just he's not going to do, I'm on the floor. Just out of nowhere, he just lets the shot go and you're on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. And there's very little tell on those shots. He doesn't telegraph those shots.
No. And that's what again, Zhilei Zhang, we forget, he was an experienced amateur, so he does know these tricks.
Yeah.
Guy can't box. And you wonder, Zhilei Zhang with stamina, he would be lethal.
Yeah, if he had like just average punch output for a heavyweight, he would be fucking lethal. He would. Yeah,
he wouldn't even need Joe Joyce. Imagine like Tyson Fury level stamina, or say Dylan White. Dylan White's stamina is not amazing, but it's good enough. Something like that, he would be seriously dangerous.
Yeah, he would. He may be one of the best. Honestly, he may be one of the best heavyweights if he had stamina. But it's one of those things. Like, we've known this about Zhilei Zhang for a long while. Has he tried to address it?
No, that's the thing. Like, if you know stamina is an issue, you think, right, focus more. My guy's coming in heavier now.
Yeah, bro. His stamina looked worse in that fight with Parker than it did against Joyce in both fights.
He was about 15, he was a stone lighter in the first Joyce fight. And he was able to stay at a good pace for the first 6-7 rounds. I think it went 6 or 7 rounds that fight. He was even heavier against Parker, and he was done after 3 rounds.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, he wasn't even probably fighting at that high a pace.
Yeah, it's mad. It's mad. But he needs to work on that. That's what's holding him back. But has he got the time to do it now at 40?
At 40. But against someone like Wilder, who's probably going to fight at a slow pace, you can get away with that. That's what I'm afraid of. That even if Zhang doesn't need to address it against Wilder, because Wilder will just give him all the time and space he needs.
That's the thing. If he does address it, though, I think it's going to be an easy fight because he could maul Wilder. He could maul Wilder, honestly.
He will manhandle Deontay Wilder. Manhandle him if he does that.
I agree. Because he can fight on the front foot as well. He can go forwards.
He can. That's how he knocked out Joe Joyce.
Yeah, exactly. He can. If he were able to do, if it's the same Zhilei Zhang from those Joyce fights, Wilder is in deep trouble.
He is gonzo. That's the end of the Bronze Bomber.
100%. Career over.
And this is all on one card that has Beterbiev Bivol as the main event. Like, honestly, this June 1st card, I cannot emphasize enough how much I'm looking forward to it. Beterbiev Bivol is the fight me and you are probably looking forward to the most. Yeah.
If that card pans out anywhere close to what we are talking about, it's the best card of the year.
100%.
Unless they make another crazy fucking card.
I was going to say, that's only the first 6 months. They have another 6 months to work with.
The main event, bro, that's all I really need. Bivol Beterbiev, undisputed at light heavyweight. We've been waiting for so long, since the days of Stevenson, Kovalev, for an undisputed light heavyweight champion. And the
worst part is they could have done it back then.
They could have done it. Yeah, exactly. They could have done it. And so could Ward and Stevenson. These fights could have happened, but now we're finally getting it. It's a great style matchup. The pure boxer versus the aggressive, come forward pressure fighter. It's going to be a great fight. I've got Beterbiev. I think he'll stop Bivol late, but that's just me.
I know. I part of me is thinking Beterbiev to win because I know Bivol has to be perfect. But then it's like, but I think Bivol can be. Like, I look at Vodcek and I think Bivol is better. In my opinion, Bivol is better. And if he could replicate what Vodcek did and just not let the pressure get to him, he could win that fight on points.
But the problem is, like, Vodcek was boxing relatively well for like the first 6 rounds. He was 4-2 up, I would say.
Oh yeah, he was.
And he was landing good shots, which never had no effect. And yes, he won he was winning after 6, but it took a lot out of him
Mm-hmm.
Bivol doesn't have the power of Usyk. Yes, he can move better. Yeah, he's more elusive, but doing that for 12 rounds against Beterbiev, a guy who's got underrated foot speed and ability to cut the ring off, it's going to be such a hard ask, in my opinion, for Bivol.
Beterbiev is kind of, they're not the same in terms of style, but it's like Oleksandr Usyk. Do you remember when Bellew fought Usyk? And Bellew was competitive, and it was taking everything out of Bellew just to hang with him.
Yeah, but that's why people overlook that factor, G-Man. They overlook that factor. They'll look at things like the Usyk fight and say, well, Usyk had success. Yeah, he did. But he had success against Beterbiev, who was still warming up, who hadn't found his groove, and he was still having to do so much to win the rounds he won, and he took a lot out of himself. Well, but Beterbiev took a lot out of him.
To think, like, that's got to be horrible for a fighter. Imagine you're doing that. You're looking good, doing what you need to do, and you're like, he's not out of first gear. You can tell he's not. You can tell he's still warming into it, and you're like, I'm done. I can't keep up doing this, and he's got loads left.
And another thing as well with Beterbiev, like, people act like he's a caveman with no boxing ability.
Man, my guy can box.
Yeah, he can box. He can. He really can. He can counter while moving forwards. Like I said, his ability to cut the ring off is very good. He can punch while on the front foot, which is very hard. He does a technique called shifting. He's a master at that style. He's one of the best at that style in boxing right now, that come forward style. He does it with a lot of ability, a lot of foot speed. He's good, man. He's very good. And his jab's very good as well.
We've known that about Beterbiev for years and years and years. You know what I always say is one of the big what-ifs? He was mandatory for Sergei Kovalev before Kovalev fought Ward, I believe. Could you imagine they'd actually have done that fight?
I think he would have beaten Kovalev and Ward.
He would have. He would have beaten them both. But I think his name, because at the time, HBO were really backing Kovalev. And I think if he'd have gone on to HBO, beat Kovalev, he would be an absolute, I won't say mega star, but he'd be a much bigger star now than he is.
Yeah, 100%, bro. 100%. Yeah, he'd have had those fights a lot earlier. He's had to wait a long time. He's had to wait a long time.
I do remember Kovalev at the time. He was the crusher, undefeated. Even he was kind of like, even at that time, it was kind of like, well, we'll do Ward instead. He knew damn well. He was like, nah, I ain't beating this guy.
Yeah, I think he had a bad style for Kovalev. Personally.
He would have mauled Kovalev to bits. Kovalev was long range.
He's a very good boxer puncher, Kovalev. But yeah, once you get onto his chest, I think Beterbiev would have been a big problem.
I think Kovalev would have quit. I think he would have quit. I
just think he'd get stopped, bro. I really do.
Beterbiev just has that. Even when he's not trying to, he's hurting you. Like those shots, like I never forget Callum Smith. Callum Smith might win. The first 10 seconds, he's backed up against the rope, getting unloaded on.
Yeah, I thought that was a banana skin fight. Callum looked better at 175 than he did at 168 in his last few fights. But it was like man versus boy in there, wasn't it? It was like man versus boy. It was like he beat Callum like he stole something from him. It's one-sided, man. One-sided.
It was just. I thought Callum Smith would have moments, and it was like crap.
So did I, bro.
He's getting annihilated in there. Like
I picked Beterbiev to win, but I felt it would be similar in a sense to the Yard fight, where Smith was in it but always losing, but having moments type of thing before getting stopped. But he got fucking blitzed.
It was bad. It was bad. You see, here's the problem: if Yard fights Callum Smith, yeah, Yard got stopped as well, but Yard was in that fight. He had his moments. The speed kind of gave Beterbiev a bit of trouble. If I'm like Callum Smith, I'm like, that was only in January. Like the beating he took, he's probably not even going to be fully recovered now, much less June. I'd have to go into camp.
But there's a thing I noticed about Beterbiev. When he's in fights in which are supposed to be competitive, it's like he finds another level, like the Usyk fight or like the Joe Smith fight, because people were giving Joe Smith a puncher's chance.
Oh yeah, a lot of us were.
Even Callum, people gave him a puncher's chance. But when he's fighting these guys who are perceived as more dangerous, he looks better, in my opinion.
He makes the fights that, look, I'm not going to say he makes the easy fights hard. He doesn't. He makes no fights hard, truth be told. But, the easy fights, he just does what he needs to do, workmanlike performance. Yeah, boom, it's done. Then he gets into the fights where you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be tough, and you're like, oh, that wasn't at all.
Yeah, he raises those levels, and I think he will against Bivol. I'll make a
He's going to need
prediction.
to.
I'll make a prediction right now. I don't think this fight's going to be as competitive as people think it will be.
You really?
Yeah, I think to some it will surprise them how convincing this victory is going to be.
Do you think that if Beterbiev does win, it's going to be Beterbiev versus Benavidez? Because they've talked about Jay Apataya, but I reckon they're going to do Benavidez.
It depends, though, man. You know, Benavidez is with PBC. Are they going to work with the Saudis? You know, they don't exactly have a track record of. I know they've done it a bit more recently with Ryan, you know, Ryan and Tank and whatnot, but they don't really work with external promoters. So, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. If Benavidez beats Usyk, why not? I think he'd be the next best guy.
I think you would. I think that fight stylistically would be great fun.
It'd be amazing.
I'll be off the two guys. The punches will be non-stop.
It'd be an amazing fight.
In terms of undisputed fights, that's the second undisputed fight we're getting in the space of, what, about a fortnight? Because May the 18th, we have, as it stands, Fury versus Usyk. Now, obviously, we were meant to have that fight in February. I really did think we'd get it. Some people were more cynical than I was, and they were proven right. I was definitely proven wrong. But we have it for May. And Tyson Fury, in some picks, he's not looking in too bad a shape. He's looking sharp enough on the pads. A lot of people are saying, oh, yeah, like this is a foregone conclusion. Fury wins now. He's looking good. He's looking this. And I'm like, well, anyone can hit the pads. Yeah, anyone can look good in the pads. And in terms of being aesthetically in shape, how many fighters have gone into the ring looking like Mr. Universe and then looked like just dead on fight night? What are your thoughts on all this? Because I know you've kind of not really talked a great deal. You've given your opinion when you felt it's needed. But what are your thoughts on all this?
Tyson Fury certainly looks in better shape aesthetically. I think that much is fair to say. I know it's in still images and they can be deceiving. Shout out to Andy Ruiz. But it kind of, to me, sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it lends more credence to the rumors or the accusations that the first pullout wasn't legit. Because he seems in so much better shape now. He does seem to have trimmed down. Makes me wonder what his game plan is going to be. Is he actually going to try and move and have a higher output by coming in lighter? I'm not sure what the end goal is there, but he looks in better shape. And I hope it means we get a better fight, because I haven't been impressed with what I've seen from Tyson Fury. Not just the Ngannou fight, even the Chisora fight. I don't think he looked that great in that bout. Chisora is like a shot fighter, as we saw with
beyond shot.
Yeah, Washington. He lost that fight, in my opinion, and got a gift. So it's like, I wasn't impressed with Tyson in that bout. I felt his feet looked too plodding. There was a lack of feints. The feint game wasn't the same. It's almost like he was pushing his shots more than snapping them. It's like it was an effort to do what he was doing. Maybe
with those feet was able to get close.
Yeah. The last couple fights, man, I haven't been impressed with Fury, and even in the third Wilder fight, obviously, I do wonder whether he's definitely physically declining. I wonder whether this Usyk fight is going to be enough motivation for him to get himself in a place to where he can maybe perform one last time. If the decline continues from the Chisora fight, I think Usyk wins.
That's the thing. Like, how do you stop a decline if it's physical? You can't really. You can, try and keep yourself in shape to minimize the effects. But Fury is someone who's been yo-yoing so much throughout his career with weight and stuff like that. How do you stop? I don't think you can. And part of me feels as though, do you remember when David Haye fought Tony Bellew in the rematch? When he came in a bit lighter, he wore the Union Jacks again. It was like he was trying to get back to the old David Haye of 2010. With Fury, is he trying to get into the 250s to be like the old Fury of 10 years ago? Thinking, if I can get to what I was then, I can maybe perform like I did then, which obviously you can't.
I mean, possibly, or it may be something totally unique to the game plan they have. Like they may have a completely different game plan, because one thing about Fury, I will give him credit for, he has shown versatility throughout his career. So maybe he could pull something.
Tremendous versatility.
Yeah, maybe he could do something that surprises us, because I think most of us expect Fury to go in there and try to be a roughhouse, try to utilize that size and be aggressive. That's what I expect. Maybe he's planning something different.
He seems to always have plan A, plan B, plan C in place for fights.
Yeah.
But I think when he's done that in the past, that's been when his body has allowed him to do it.
True.
Maybe it won't this time. And again, Usyk seems to be the sort of guy where he has those plans as well. He can adjust just as well on the fly.
Exactly. I just hope, all I hope, bro, is that Tyson Fury isn't too far gone to where it's a bad fight.
That we won't want to see a rematch.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to see the right winner, whoever it may be. And if we did see a rematch, happy days. If it was a real good, entertaining fight, you'd be like, yeah, let's see a rematch. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just hoping for a good fight, but I just have this nagging feeling that Fury is really on the decline. Like, I think now you'll start to see it. I think we have been seeing it, but that's my opinion.
We definitely have been seeing it now, 100%. But someone's pointing this out, and I actually was thinking this myself. In all those clips of Fury training, and bear in mind, we're roughly 6-7 weeks away from fight night. I haven't seen Sugar Hill.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily, he may come over the last month, but you would think, though, if Sugar Hill, you would get him over sooner, would you not?
Well, especially
for a fight like this.
A fight of this magnitude, you would think so, right? You would think so. I don't know, maybe it's the way the camp is structured. Maybe Tyson's working with other people, maybe to start camp, and maybe, like you said, Sugar's going to come in the last sort of 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks.
Would he not be in the UK now with Ben Whittaker?
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably is.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be interesting if we don't... If he's in the UK now with Ben Whittaker and we don't see him in Team Fury or him in the camp with Tyson Fury after today or after this week, you're going to be like, come to the UK because he's not... I don't even know if he's in the gym with him, because when he was over with Lawrence Okoli last year, well, then, we seen him in the gym. They were using that to say, look, we're ready for Usyk. See who's in the camp.
Yeah, it's peculiar. Like, there's been a few rumblings of discontent with Sugar Hill, mainly from John Fury.
Always with John Fury.
Yeah, I do wonder if anything is going on behind the scenes, but you never know with Team Fury. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe on fight night we get John Fury in the corner. Can you imagine?
Could you imagine Oleksandr Usyk is winning all these rounds? I'm going to get in and fight him. My son. He wouldn't even. But you can imagine something like that.
Bro, boxing's crazy, man. It genuinely wouldn't shock me. Because I think that's what John's been angling for a long time. I think he's wanted to train Tyson.
Oh, he's wanted that since he got out of prison.
Yeah, I think so as well.
That's what he's wanted. And I think Tyson's always been like, keep you around, but at a distance.
Yeah.
Tyson is smart. He knows himself that's just not going to work.
I think so as well. Quite frankly, I don't think John's been a necessary help to Tyson.
He's been a hindrance.
I think so.
I mean, I think that if Peter Fury was still, even if he wasn't the head trainer, if he was still in the camp, this whole situation would have been handled altogether different. And Peter is a man of a lot of integrity. I have a lot of time for Peter Fury. He would be the sort of guy where if Peter Fury came out and said it was this, he'd go into detail, he'd elaborate. Peter would be the sort of guy where he wouldn't just turn around and be like, these are all critiques and this, that, and the other. Peter Fury would be open and honest to say, this is what happened, this is where we stand, this is where we're pushing it back. And you probably look at it and be like, I believe that more than just Tyson on his own or John saying something.
Yeah, I like Peter. I think he's the real deal, I believe. And I think if you had a guy like Peter in the corner still, I don't think you would have had these lackluster performances from Tyson. I certainly don't think you'd see him turn up in the shape he's turned up in certain fights.
Did we ever see a lackluster? Like, I know Fury, people will say Klitschko and this, that. I know they weren't amazing. And as in terms, they would be more a boxing purists fight. But we never seen Fury with, a real lackluster, no urgency, pulling his punches with Peter Fury. He was always on it.
Yeah, exactly. He was always in fighting shape. I know he never looked the part all the time, but he was always in fighting shape. Whereas certain fights he's had recently, he got away with the third Wilder fight, but he wasn't in great shape. I don't think he was in great shape for the Ngannou fight, Chisora fight, etc.
No, and anytime, what was his name? Christian Hammer. That was a peak, if you can call it a peak, Christian Hammer. And Fury just handled him with ease.
Yeah,
you talked about
slapped him around. Yeah,
Tony Yoka, all them, when you had an over-the-hill hammer, they were going to this. Luis Ortiz couldn't even do that.
Exactly.
So,
And you see how he was moving back then, his feints, his level changes, the lead hand, you know, there was so much to Tyson Fury's game back then. But yeah.
Yeah, Joey Abel, I'll admit, that was a good example. But that was Tyson Fury coming in when he was absolutely effed over by David Haye.
Yeah.
And he didn't take that well at all. But even then, he made short work of Joey Abel. 4 rounds, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was something like that. Peter Fury strikes me as someone who lives and breathes boxing. You know the way, like they say, like Ben Davison, and I like Ben Davison as a trainer. He gets it from a technical point of view, and he's great at, you know, explaining and looking at the fine details. Peter Fury is kind of Ben Davison plus. Like, everything is a little bit better with Peter Fury, I think.
He's a taskmaster.
He is.
And he's not a yes man either, which is probably another reason why he probably wouldn't get on now in Fury's camp. He's not a yes man.
He's definitely not. Peter Fury tells it like it is. I have a lot of time for Peter Fury. I really do. I think he's a very, very good trainer, and as a person, he's a very interesting person. I have a lot of time for him. And I think that's Tyson Fury will. If you look at Team Fury over the years, they've tried weight, they've tried this, they've tried the style, they've tried this. What's the one thing that was working before all this? Peter. And what's the one thing that's... All this stuff has worked in the parts, but it's never been long-lasting. Peter Fury would have been long-lasting.
I think so. But Tyson is where I think Tyson is where he is. You know, the stylistic change was down to declining attributes in regards to foot speed, stamina, I would say. Because the style he used before was very taxing. Like for a big man, even though he wasn't always throwing a lot of punches, the way he was moving and feinting, that is very taxing for such a big man. And after his drug binge and whatnot, he come back and took the weight off. He doesn't have that ability anymore, in my opinion.
The amount of training you would need to do, I know again he never looked aesthetically amazing, but you needed to be physically fit as hell to do that style. Like, you needed to move around the ring constantly and train, and you needed a lot of miles on the road. They was taxing on the body, that style.
Yeah, back in the day, in 2015, I don't think it's crazy to say Tyson Fury was the best conditioned heavyweight in the world.
No, he could do that 12 rounds at that pace. Yeah, granted, wasn't throwing a lot of punches, but constantly moving will tire you. And he wasn't even, you know, there was never a gulp of air in it, and it was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I could do another 5 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. And now you fast forward, I think Usyk may have the best conditioning.
Possibly.
Because he's got a lot of movement, more active with his hands, feinting, etc. Level changes, constant throughout 12 rounds. That stamina of Usyk's going to be interesting to see how Fury deals with it.
There's so much about this fight that I think is going to be interesting. I think that how Fury, because when's the last time he's fought? Otto Berlin was the last southpaw he fought.
Yeah,
Otto Berlin, I know you don't have much time for Otto Berlin. Otto Berlin, would I even be fair to say he's a pound shop Usyk? Is that disrespectful to a pound shop Usyk?
I think he's the homeless crack addict under the overpasses version of Usyk.
There you go, that's fair enough. But he's not on the same level. No. And he was able to find success. Lots of it.
Yeah, and again, I think Fury... That may speak to what I was talking about, Fury's declining. But also Fury is one of those guys, I think he does take his eye off the ball, to be honest. He does take certain guys less seriously than others. I think that's been a theme throughout his career, but time will tell, man. He does
rise to the occasion when his back is against the wall.
He does. He's shown that throughout his career, but how many times can you go down to the well, especially when you've lived his life?
If you look at it like this, think of it like this. Billy Joe was very similar. Almost different, they had to make weight, but Billy Joe would have those brilliant performances where his back's against the wall, where he's in the lion's den, and then he has crap performances. Against Canelo, he did everything he needed to do. He did literally everything. He was the underdog, back was against the wall, and he was found wanting. Yep. Now, I think Tyson is made of tougher stuff than Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah,
but, you know, you kind of look and think, could something like that happen? Where he does look good in the fight, but just not there. And the guy he's in there with is just too good.
We could see that against Usyk. I wouldn't be shocked. My gut instinct tells me this fight's going to be very messy, to be honest. I think it's going to be very messy. Well. Because I think if I was training Fury, I would advise him to try and smother Usyk, but
I've got that feeling that it'll have good moments in it, and then it'll just have rounds where you're just like, for God's sake, what is going on?
I'm kind of interested. Do you think Usyk can hurt Fury?
Yes.
So do I.
So do I, 100%. I think that if the likes of Steve Cunningham are dropping you, if the likes of Tszyu are able to get in close, Usyk is not even that he hits so hard. He's so accurate with those shots and fast. I think a lot of the times, if you look at the first Joshua fight, a lot of the times where he rocked Joshua, it was more down to Joshua just not expecting a shot to come. Good.
He's so quick with it. And also he can bring that left hand. He kind of loops it up and over. It kind of comes from a weird angle to where you're not really seeing it coming.
Exactly. That was round 3 when he kind of backed Joshua up and Joshua's legs kind of did a little kind of stiffen. It was more that Joshua wasn't ready, was not even remotely thinking of expecting a left hand, and boom, there it is. And he's like, oh, what the hell was that? And I think he's going to do that with Fury. And again, Fury, he'll probably take them, but I think he'll show signs that, oh, he's after stinging me. And maybe if Usyk does see a moment where, and I think as well with Usyk and Joshua in the first fight, Usyk was in such control. He just knew there's no way they're giving this to anyone other than me. I think if he really wanted to, he could have got Joshua out of there in that round 12. I think if he gets the chance against Fury, and especially considering the fact that with him and Joshua, there was a respect there. I think with Usyk, he might not show it, but I'm sure he's not like the fact he's been messed around for the last 2 years. He'll be like, if he gets the chance, he's going to be like, I'm going to close the show.
Yeah. I expect a body attack from Usyk in this fight.
Oh, yeah.
That straight left to the solar plexus. It's one of his best shots that he doesn't really get talked about for. But he done a lot of damage to Joshua in their first fight with that shot. That straight left to the body. That
straight left to the body slowed Joshua down massively. And you see it when if you have the high guard or you're kind of moving your head a little bit, Usyk it's almost like he just reads it. He knows jab, solar plex left. Yeah. He doesn't even think it. And the guys always let it happen. Joshua, it was almost like that's the default shot for Usyk. Just let solar plex. Joshua just couldn't cover up.
Yeah, and we've not really seen Tyson deal with that type of fighter, man. I look at this fight and I just see Usyk winning for some reason. I just don't have faith in Tyson Fury to be the same guy.
Neither do I. I haven't. The last impressive performance was Dillian Whyte for me. That's 2 years ago. And prior to that, it was Wilder in the rematch. And that was 2 years prior.
Well, it's 2 years later, so maybe he's due another good performance.
Maybe he is doing another good performance. But saying that, if you think about it like this, he fought Wilder, Dillian Whyte. So in 5 fights, I suppose like 5 fights, 2 of them have been good performances. The other 3 have been fairly... And the 3 myths have been all recent. Well, primarily all recent.
Yeah, exactly.
The Wilder fight, recent enough.
Exactly.
Nearly 3 years ago.
I want to see a bit more of this training footage, and we'll see how both guys come across in the build-up as well. I'm interested in it. I'm interested. We'll see.
We'll end it on this one, right? And it's the last, because a few people have said it, and I think even Krasuk has kind of hinted at it. May the 18th, do we get the fight, yes or no?
One thing I've learned, G-Man, as over the last 10 years or so being a boxing fan and then an uploader, is never to count on Tyson Fury for anything. Anything can happen, bro. Anything can happen. I've seen it all with Tyson Fury. May pull out with an injury, may go like AWOL, could turn up and put on a brilliant performance, could turn up and shit the bed. Anything can happen here, bro. I'm sitting here with my fingers crossed and hoping for the best. That's what I'm doing. I'm not going to try and jinx it. I'm not going to say, yes, it's going to happen. I'm just hoping it is.
If it doesn't happen on May 18th, does it happen at all?
That's an interesting question. At that point in time, you'd be looking at titles maybe becoming vacant because they can't keep delaying it. I think it's very possible that it wouldn't happen at that point.
No. I think Usyk wants undisputed, and I think that he'd be like, I will have to defend this. I will sooner defend this than vacate it.
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case. And May 18th, we have a fun, entertaining, undisputed fight with a clear winner and not either way, if Usyk gets a BS decision, I'm going to call it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
just a clear winner.
I know how I want this to go. Like, if Usyk wins clearly, I'd rather just see him retire. I've got no interest in a third Joshua fight.
Neither do I.
And if Tyson Fury wins clear, it's the AJ fight. I think it works out pretty
100%.
simple for me. It works out simple.
If Fury wins, it's the AJ fight, 100%.
Yeah. Whereas Usyk, if Usyk wins, like, he's beat AJ, he's beat Fury. Does anybody care for like a Hrgovic fight or not really?
And if you listen to Usyk last year, before he fought Dubois, you can kind of tell that it's really only Fury and Undisputed that Usyk wants. Like, you can tell that, like, that is literally what he... After that, it's like, I'm done, I'm finished boxing. I've completed it.
He would have, yeah. He would have, man. It would have been a brilliant run. And if you stick around, man, he's 37, is he? What, 37?
37, yeah. He's 38 next January.
So, yeah, he's getting to that stage now. If he were to beat Fury decisively, then I think he should retire. If it's close and he wins, do a rematch and then go from there, maybe retire after that.
How many really do get to go out like that? Winning undisputed, you know, that's got to be the best way you could ever leave any sport. I'm on top, you know, a Nico Rosberg in F1, a Peyton Manning in NFL. You're on top. You've done it. See you later. Retire on top.
Exactly, bro. He'd have been a undisputed champion at cruiserweight, undisputed at heavyweight, with an unbeaten record, and not an inflated unbeaten record either.
Hell no.
I mean, it would be a great way to bow out. It really would.
That would be an all. That he is an all-time, but that would be just it sealed.
It would be one of the best career endings of all time, without doubt.
You could easily see a movie if that does happen. That's a movie. Literally, and they dramatize it so much, like, you know, Usyk, there he is sitting in a corner waiting for this undisputed. It's all backs against the wall, right? Undisputed's coming, let's do it. Sail off into the sunset. They do a movie on that 100%.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, indeed. And I've enjoyed watching him, man. As a fight fan, he basically, as a boxing fan, all you really want is for guys to take the hardest fights when they can and take risks.
Him and Inoue are basically what we basically have them in Inoue and Usyk, and they don't get enough praise.
No, I agree. And it's a shame, really. Like, certain fighters who are like very popular kind of A-side fighters, they use a lot of politics in their careers, yet they get the most praise. But guys who do it right kind of probably don't get the credit they deserve, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. I think that's part of a modern generation, you know. They're more interested in like social media hype than actual fights. But
Inoue and Usyk had world title fights. Usyk's first world title was in his 10th fight. I think Inoue was in his 7th or 8th. And they didn't fight. Yeah, they fought guys who they were better than, but they weren't just like, you know, a god-awful journeyman or anything like that, or a washed-up over-the-hill guy. They were, you know, guys that you're like, all right, fair enough, he looks good against them. And then it was just top level after that.
Yeah. And that's what you want, man. That's what you want.
Inoue fought a long reigning champion after moving up 2 weight divisions in his first world title fight at 115.
Yeah, Omar Narvaez, yeah.
Long reigning champion.
You don't get many fighters like that anymore these days. You don't.
That's why we need to appreciate those guys. And when people are like, oh, but Inoue is there, you just say, hang on a minute. We literally have a guy here who's like, hardest challenge comes first, easiest to the back of the queue.
Yeah, look at how he's just gone about undisputed. Like, he's just how he's cleaned these divisions out, man. It's been very good. It's so good to watch, man.
It's so good to watch, and he's gonna clean ass at featherweight when he moves up to featherweight.
I think he will right now. When I look at featherweight, I think he'll reign in that division as well. He could become a freeweight undisputed. It's possible.
Insane if that's the case. If I was Oleksandr Usyk, I'd be saying, yeah, but mine is the limit, so. There's no way I could be a freeweight because mine's the limit. You have all the limits to go through. But we have two of the best there. They're on the pound for pound. I don't really do pound for pound, but they are two of the best. And I just think it's sad that they go under the radar a bit.
Yeah, I think it's because I think we over here, we always prioritize like British or American fighters more than anybody else. It's just one of those things.
But mate, I think we've done the over the hour. I think we've had a good little one tonight, man. It's been fun. Do you know what it is, right? Whenever I get people like you on or Ade or someone like that, an hour just kind of goes like that, and you don't even miss it. and you're like, where the hell did that go? Mate, closing thoughts from you on everything. It's a good weekend of boxing this coming weekend. Fury looks in good shape. Anything else you want to add?
I'm praying that the boxing gods don't cast a spell on us and we miss some of these fights. I'm hoping like there's no injuries. Like if I could like safeguard any fight, it's Bivol Beterbiev. I hope nothing happens there. All I hope is like as many of these fights happen as possible. I hope that 5v5 gets announced ASAP so we can really talk about that.
I want to book my flights to go to the press conference. I'm hoping I get a date soon.
Oh shit, nice man. That'd be great if you can get out there, man. But yeah, man, I just hope we start getting these fights with greater regularity now because I feel like the first sort of 3 months of this year have been a bit slow. Maybe it's me, but I feel
a little bit.
It's been a little bit slow. Hopefully, it now starts to pick up as we get into the summer and we get some mega fights. Mega fights, unifications, undisputeds, prospect v prospect, all these sort of fights, man. Fights that we actually care about, where there's something riding on the outcome.
I think we will, and I think, especially with the Saudis being involved, the monetization end of it, a lot of these guys are like, F it. We're going to get paid and I can come again.
Yeah, I'm not going to get it anywhere else.
I ain't going to get anywhere else. And if I stay in the UK, I'm not even going to get even a fraction of this.
Yeah, exactly, man. Some of these guys have to go out there.
But mate, hopefully we got you up to 8K. I'm going to have a little check and make sure. But mate, it's a pleasure having you on as always. I always love getting that 8K. Boom, there you go. I love getting nice. 8K is like you do that in a day undisturbed. So like, but it's different. It's like the blue collar sport came around first.
Yeah, if that was the first channel, yeah, man, first channel.
And now 8K in a day is nothing to you, man. But man, I appreciate you having you on. As I love having the guests on. Dell's a great guest. 150 still in the building. If you could smash the like button. I haven't asked once, but very good tonight. I haven't asked once, but now I'm asking, please smash that like button on the way out. Lads, I'll leave it there. Dell, anything to add?
Not really, bro. Thank you for having me on. Guys
Pleasure
in the chat,
always.
if you wanna hop over, Blue Collar Sports TV. We just do regular boxing content, nothing crazy. And yeah, thank you for listening to my bullshit for like the last hour or so.
Definitely ain't bullshit. I can tell you that. Definitely ain't bullshit. Lads, it's been fun. Peace out. That was fun, mate.